Testing, testing. Okay, the audio is good. And then let me check from the Zoom. Yep, the Zoom is also working fine. Then we shall start on today's topic because it might be a little bit lengthened because this is the mind map that we will go through today, and then we will talk about what is tariff and then eventually what will we make to happen. So if you guys have any knowledge on macroeconomic, then you will know what is a tariff and then what is the consequences that it could lead to. And how come is this a risky movement for Trump and for the United States? We will just talk about it later on. And we also talk about the basic knowledge and then the consequences, how is the reaction from the other country, the counterparties, and what will happen next. And if you dig into the detail, then you will know more about the financial situations of a United States, and then what is the final objective, what is the goal that behind all of this series of action that raised by Trump. So today we will go about tariff. So let's check on the time. It's 8:01, so we shall start right now. If there's no more questions or yeah, we shall start right now. So first of all, what is tariff? And then this will bring to the first point. What the fuck is tariff? Okay. So let me just give you a very brief example on what is tariff. Tariff is actually a tax that a government puts on the goods or the product from the other that is imported from the other country. So let's say you have a friend called maybe Tommy, and Tommy want to buy a toys. And someday he just walk by a shop and then he just find out that there's a robot, the robot toys that is selling at $10. But now the US government say, wait. We want you to buy something that is manufactured by local company or local industry, but not the toys from China. So this is what the government do. If you want to buy a toy that is imported from China, then you need to pay for another $2 more for the tax. So as you can see from this, because right now the toys that is selling at originally at $10, and maybe the local manufacturer toy is selling at $11. So the China toy is much more cheaper when you're comparing to the US toy. But with this tariff movement, the government successfully to make the China toy become more expensive when comparing to the US toy. And in this way, they will just encourage the people to buy local goods. Okay, so right now back to the story. So Tommy want to still insist on buying a toy. So $10 and $12 doesn't make any difference for him. So he just decided to buy. So if you ever wonder where is this $2 goes? So the money flow actually work like this. First of all, if you just go through the social media, you'll find out that there is actually some survey that have been done on the street of United States, and they're all thinking that Trump actually did something great. As a citizen, appreciate that what Trump did, and they think that it's the China that is paying the tariff. But actually, this is not how it works. So the money flow work like this. When I'm a shop owner of a toy store, and I buy things from China first. So when I imported the bunch of toys, then I need to pay the tariff first. So for this specific toy, this particular toy, initially selling at $10, when I buy it from China, I pay the $2 tariff to the government. So the US government have received this $2. Then afterward, what will I done? And if I'm the toy seller, I'm the US toy store owner, I wouldn't bear this cost by myself. I will just transfer this cost to my buyer, just transfer this cost to all those kids. In this case, it's a Tommy. So Tommy, you just buy this toy for me, and then how are you going to transfer the cost to Tommy? I simply just raise the price of the toy by $2. In this case, the final consumer, in this case, which is Tommy, will be the one that is bearing this $2 extra cost. So as you can see, actually, if Trump did all this tariff thing, the people, the citizens in the country will be the final victim. And you can see that from China's side, they didn't bear any cost. They didn't just pay anything. The one that is paying is either me, the shop owner, or the final consumer. So what if after I raise the price and there's no demand? What if I raise it from $10 to $12 and then Tommy don't want to buy it anymore? Then I will be the one who bear the cost. So in both situations, the one that suffer will be Tommy and also the shop owner. So is Trump doing this thing really a good thing? But there's another alternative solution is when I get to know that I need to pay for the $2 for the extra tax, I will just quickly change my opinion. I didn't insist on importing the goods from China, and then in this case, I will just go to negotiate with the local manufacturer. So in this way, the local manufacturer will get benefit because their demand will increase because we are switching up the supplier. And then if I'm switching it, even though I need to just buy from the local store, local manufacturer at $11, but it's still cheaper when comparing to I'm selling at $12. So in this way, the local manufacturer get to be benefit, but me as a shop owner and Tommy as a final consumer will still suffer a bit because eventually the price will raise. Not because of the tariff, it's because of we are buying things that is manufactured by United States. Because the things manufactured in China is really cheap when comparing to the things that is manufactured in US. So this is how it works. So do not get confused on who is the one that is paying the tariff. China didn't pay anything. The thing that will get affected is the supply and demand. When the other country have no demands, then they will just affect the international business in China. So China will just maybe there will be a head cut, a salary cut, or something. So that is the macroeconomic word, and we will talk about it later on. And the interesting point is, how does Trump calculate this tariff? Okay, so we will see how does Trump calculate the tariff. He calculated by using the trade deficit divided by the total export. Okay, here comes another example. What is a trade deficit? It's the value in between the import and the export. Example, when US are buying things from China, the total value that they have bought is maybe $10 USD. And when China is buying things from US, the total value is maybe $6. So you can see that China actually selling things to US at $10 and US is selling things to China at $6. So in this whole scenario, China make a profit of $4. And that $4 is what called a trade deficit. It's the imbalance in between the export and the import. So why does it make it a trade deficit? Because and then this calculation method is very childish in my point of view. It's because Trump only considers about the goods and products, because US itself is not a very big manufacturer country. So when it comparing to China, that thing US think that Trump think that the China makes money from them, from their citizens, from their country. So you think that the cash flow is actually flowing out. So he want to make them suffer too. They just think that it doesn't work like this. You cannot just keep on making money from me, but I'm not making any money from you. So he used this calculation methods. But this is childish. It's because of when they're using the trade deficit, it only consider the goods and product. Meanwhile, US is actually profit in the global market by service. Let's say YouTube, Google, this and also the ChatGPTs and Gemini. All of this is considered as service, and there's no actual physical goods and product exchange. So they actually make money, but not from the goods and products. They make money from service. But this service alone, they didn't consider it. Trump just ignore it, and then he just want to calculate what will benefit the negotiation. Okay. So I think that this calculation method actually not that fair. And yeah, we shall continue. So when he calculated this, back to the example just now. So US think that from the goods and product itself, China make a $4 from them. And then how do they calculate the tariff? Is by using the $4 divided by the $6. So they're using the $4 divided by $6 and they'll get a percentage. And that is what the thing that the China is profiting, the profit margin. But this is actually just a demand and supply game. And he's just using that number and claims that is and then cut it half because of his generous. And then he will just apply it as a tax. So even though he raised the tariff that much, eventually the one that is suffer is the local citizens and the local company, because they are the one that have demands on the imported goods and products. Okay. So let's talk on why in the case of US, the export is greater than the import. No. We should just go through the conclusion. Why China is making money from the goods and products from the manufacturer? First of all, it's because of China itself is a very big manufacturers country. Why? Because they have a very cheaper labels, and then they have a lower value in their currency. So in example, for one apple that is selling in China and one apple that is selling in US, even though both of them is selling at $1, but $1 is in CNY and $1 in USD is total different value. So when the currency have a lower value, which means that they can produce things with the same quality at a cheaper price. Just like the apple just now, the same exact apple that is selling at $1, you can see the value. You can see that the $1 apple will be much more cheaper in China because of the currency value. So instead of adding the tariff, what if they just do it in different way, like controlling the currency value of USD dollar to drop it down? Is that possible? So you can see that the others product are cheaper. Actually, you can see from the quality itself, it doesn't make much difference. So the difference is the pricing. So if they're using the same standards in the pricing, so due to the currency value difference, the other country will be much more cheaper. It's because of USD value heavier when you comparing to the other currency. So currency value, we have to go through that. And then, so we will just talk about how the currency value will affect the global dominance. The thing is work like this. If and only if US doesn't add the tariff and they just lower down their currency value, in that case, yes, they are able to produce things at a cheaper rate. And then maybe people will just get encouraged to buy local goods. But somehow it will affect the global dominant place. So now he's like a big brother in the global market. Why? It's because of USD have value. So many people will tend to trade with USD as a standard. And then we tend to just keep USD for safety purposes, for the conservative purposes. Because when the other country will just maybe suffer a war and then we'll just have a drop in the value, but USD are high likely to be a safe haven when you compare it to the others. So the value in currency is actually tied together with the global dominance. So in this case, this is what Trump need to be balanced. He want to profit from the other country, and then he also want to maintain the first place in the global market. Such a greedy man, but will these two coexisting? We don't know about that. So this is actually my first thought when Trump going to raise this tariff thing. He want to profit from the other country. Meanwhile, he also want to maintain the first place in the global market. But meanwhile, after the come and goes in between the company, the negotiations happen, we start to find out the real intention in behind Trump's. So let's see about that. So let's get to the second point. So we have talked about tariff and why tariff? Okay, why? Why Trump did all these things? We already talked about this. First one is USD circulation. He don't want the other country keep on making money from them, from US. He want to just keep the local citizens to buy local goods, local manufacturers. So he wants USD to be circulated in the country itself without flowing out. The second is to rise of the local industry. So by just adding the tariff, the local citizens will now have a lower demand on the imported goods. And then somehow they will just switch their demands to the local supplier. So the local supplier, in this case, will be profit. And we'll go through the third one just later on. Let's see on which local industry will be benefit from it. Which industry? Okay. First of all, semiconductors. Actually, US is a very big technology country, so that they have a very high demands on the component, on the semiconductors. So just like Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, Google, all of them have their component that's manufactured in China. So by doing this, they were just trying to just cut all those supplies that is from China and then maybe just switch to a local semiconductor manufacturers company, and then it will just raise the demands in the local semiconductor industry. Second is the electric vehicles and battery. A very similar reason is because actually all of these have a very similar reason, because they are this is the industry that is heavily depending on other country. So right now, if the tariff thing really just work in a very aggressive way, and you will see the rise of all of this industry. But somehow in just a few days ago, US already announced that they have just extended the semiconductor tariff tax. So is this one of the compromise step that is taken by Trump because of the retaliations that have been done by China and Japan? I believe it is. Maybe the seven big sister, the tech big head has been complained to the FED and Trump, say that that they cannot just switching it right away. So they need a phase for a transitions. So right now they are just trying to exempt all these tariff on semiconductors, and just you will just doesn't make the component to become so expensive right now. So it will take a transition for the local industry to grow until a stage that they can consume, they can just take over it. So right now it's not a chance, but they will grow. So let's check on the white tariff, the third objections, third objective is the means of negotiations. As you can see from Trump, I don't believe it, that he is a very great politic man, but he is indeed a very good businessman. So let me give you an example. When I want to borrow from you, like maybe 20,000 USD, do you willing to just lend me the money? You won't, right? Because this is way too far, the 20,000. But what if I say if you don't have 20,000, maybe you can you just borrow me like 200? And if that is the case, then probably you are more willing to just borrow me that $200. So if I just come at the right second, I just say that, can you borrow me $200 instead? Then if that is the case, you probably won't, because you think that 20 is a lot. But if you just compare it with the first option, which is the 20,000, then you will think that the second one is not that offensive. So you will be more willing to compromise with the alternative solution. This is also the skill of negotiation. You can just give out something that is very offensive, and then you provide another alternative solution that is more persuasive to the others. You know, when there's a comparison, then you can tell the thing that is different, right? So this is so the tariff. Does Trump really want tariff? Maybe not. Maybe it's just a skill for Trump to fight for the other things. What is the thing that Trump really want to fight for? Is money. So if you did study along with the response that's provided by the other countries, you'll find out that Vietnam, if is the first company that compromised. So when Trump said that, I want to add the tariff tax on you guys, like how many percent on you, how many percent on you, and at the first second, when the other country didn't make any response, they just stand still, and China keep on fighting back, and Vietnam, it at least at the Southeast Asia, is the first one that compromised. So Vietnam just come in place. Sorry, Trump. Sorry, Trump. So can we be friends? You know, I will show my kindness to you. I will accept all the tax that is on your goods. You know, can you just be nice to me and lower down the tariff instead? You know, just maybe not that much as you compare with the other country. So this is what Vietnam do. He trying to just providing a good view, just show his kindness in order to exchange for a lower tariff rate. So what happened when Trump heard about all of these things? So when Vietnam just show the kindness and they want to be friend and want to lower down the tariff, and then at the first second they compromise. And the response from US is, oh, the response from US is, no, this is not enough. They want more, you know. You accept the tariff on me, but that is not enough. We want more. But how? They didn't mean it very specifically, because if you do that, then that is some kind of like a rasuah. If you are in Malaysia, then you know this is not very a very good thing to say about that. So how the other country are going to give the money, they want more, is money. So I don't want you to just lower down the tariff on our goods. This is what the US say. US say we want money, we want more. And how you just transfer the money to us? You cannot just transfer to my personal account, right? So when the other country want to transfer a huge lot of money to US, the best solution is buy their bonds. When you buy US bond, then the whole things become valid. When you buy the bond, US just give you the bond, and then you just give a huge bond of money to US. In that way, that will be a switch of the whole circulations of money complete. Okay. So why Trump want the others to buy his bond? Why? And this is what I studied. First of all, the bonds currently is going to expire. So let me explain to you what a bond is. A bond is that a ticket, a loan ticket. So let's say you buy a US bond, and let's say a 3 year bond. So when you buy it right now, a 3 years bond, and then 3 years, in these 3 years, I will just keep on giving you interest. And then at the end of 3 years, when this bond get mature, I will buy it back. So this is what a bond is. Simply, it's just I would say that it's just a debt, but is in a larger scale, you know, in a country scale. So let me just tell you about how many bonds is going to expire in this year. From the debt itself that is going to mature in this year is 9 trillions. And just in case that you don't know about the figure of these 9 trillions, so 9 trillions, let me give you a comparison. If you just compare on the trade deficit, which is the money that other country is making from them, from the trade deficit in 2024 is 900 billion. Billion, not trillion, it's billion. 900 billion. So in last year, the other country altogether are making money from the goods and products in it just separate just splitting the biscuit from US is 900 billion. So now you have a comparison number. The debt that is going to mature in this year is 9 trillion. It's about 10 times of that number, you know. So in that case, how Trump is going to pay back on this 9 trillion? Usually this is what they do. They will just issue a new bond. So you buy on the new bond, and then when you buy the new bond, I have the money, and then I can use the money to pay back the old one. So this is kind of like a skill. They will issue a new bond to attract the investor, and then buying it, and then they will just have the money to pay back the old debtor, you know. So this is a bond market things. So right now. So if you want to, make the bond more attractive, what will you do? You will going to raise the interest instead. But what will the consequences if they raise the interest too much? So let's say if you buy the bond and then the bond can provide you like right now is like a 4 to 6%. What if I raise it to like 10%? You can make a 10% return in 1 year. And then if you buy a 3-year one, then you can make like 30%. Quite good, right? So that is the skill that just try to stimulate the demands of the bond. But in that way, when the interest rate get to be raised, it will affect the bond rate, the bond interest rate, and also the mortgage, the credit card, the housing loan, car loan, and any loans. So in that case, it will bring a very bad effect on the local market, on US. Why? It's because when you borrowing money get to be more expensive, and when you buy things, you have to pay more interest because of the debt, and you will just lower down the people interest in buying goods and the company interest on expanding, because when they borrow money, then they will need to pay back more debt. So Trump actually want to avoid this. You want to avoid bringing a bad effect to the local citizens and the local industry. So he used the tariff as an alternative movement. So instead of raising the interest to increase the demand of the bond, he is trying to threaten the other country to buy his bond. This is my uh really from my point of view, there's no any I want to avoid to get into any troubles. So this is my opinion. Okay. So 9 trillion, is it a lot? If you compare to the US history, 9 trillion is only the number that gets mature by this year. The total debt is about 36 trillion if you base on the current the current government situation. 36 trillion. But 9 trillion is about a quarter of them, 25% around that. So is this number a lot when you're comparing to the previous government? Compared to the whole the few decades or the century in US history? Let me give you some figures to compare. Let me give you a number. The debt to GDP ratio. What debt to GDP ratio is just using the debt divided by the total GDP. So if it exceeds 100, which means that right now the debt to GDP ratio in United States is about 124%, which means last year, if the whole country has been making about 100 billion, then the debt that has been generated will be 124 billion. So the speed, I mean the debt, the expansion of the debt, the generations is way faster comparing to the speed that they're making money. So if that keep on going down, then you will find out that the country will be in a very crisis situations. So 124% for the debt to total GDP ratio. Will that be a lot? Let me give you 2 examples to compare with. World War II. War is actually one cases that will cost a lot of money because of military, medicals, the food supply, and the whole country is in war, and then there's no manufacturers and no services provided. The company doesn't make any money. So world war is actually a thing that will consume a lot of money. So after World War II, the debt to GDP ratio for United States is 119% lower when you compare it to the debt ratio right now. So even though the US government, everything seems nice, but you'll find out that actually they are having a very high, at a very dangerous position where they're having a very high debt on hand. So let me compare with you another cases. COVID. In 2020, when the COVID come, many countries get to be in quarantines and the business doesn't run. And in that case, everyone is in loss, right? So the unemployment rate get to raise, the profit get to cut. So that is a very bad social situation. A very bad financial situations. Under COVID, the debt to GDP ratio is 133%. So now you get it compared. The current situation is 124. If you compare to World War II, it's 119, higher than World War II, but it's lower when you're comparing to COVID. COVID is 134%. Meanwhile, now it's 124%. So now you get the comparison. It is at a very abnormal level when you're comparing to normal level, but it's still not as worse when you're comparing to COVID, but it's worse when you compare to World War II. Okay. And next thing is why they need money, right? It's because of the stock market. When there's money flowing from the other country, the stock market get to stimulated. There's liquidity and it can just continue the bull run. So right now, when the country is not printing money, there's no liquidity to push the stock market. And the stock market is at a very high level before the tariff. But after the tariff, it dropped heavily. So in order to maintain at the current valuation or at a higher price, they need more money to do so. And that also will boost the other the whole market confidence. That as a duty as a president. Okay. So this is the second thing. Why tariff? Now we will talk about, is it a risky move? Is tariff really a risky move? Let us see on that. Compromise. And we have talked about that. What if the other country get to be compromised? And you will know from Vietnam case, whereby US want more. And you will know that Trump is essentially a businessman. Deep down, Trump is a businessman before politic man. So he know to, when you just show your weakness, he won't just pat you, just say sayang sayang. He won't do that. He will step on your weakness. So a compromise will just consolidate on Trump's dominant place. But what if the other country retaliates? Revenge movement. You add me tariff, I add on you too. You tax me, I tax you. In that case, everything get to be more expensive. And that will lead to inflation. But inflation is just short term. Eventually, it will lead to deflation. And we will go through it one by one. So, in the perspective, if you just consider about people, the cost of living will increase. Because if you add on tariff on me, I add on tariff on you, everything get to be so expensive. Right now, if I live in US and I want to buy a bag that is made in China, and previously maybe I pay for $20, and right now it's $40 or more. So the cost of living will get to be very high unless your country itself get to manufacture all the things, cover from plantations, energy, technology, components, and everything. But it doesn't seem to be so realistic. People are not perfect, and the country itself have a limited resources to do so. So even though, let's say plantations, even you are you are buying goods that is local goods, will you get affected? Yes. Why? Because if I am the US company, even though I didn't I still selling the local goods, but I need to maintain my business. And let's say I get to buy some machineries, some let's say I sell Apple and I need to get some machinery that get harvest, right? So that all that machine, maybe I will import from China and other places. And that is some kind, it's not a direct costing, but it's an intermediate in between that will make the whole chain get to be very expensive. So somehow it will get affected. So even though the local goods will get to be more expensive too, not just the imported goods. Okay. So let's see it from the company perspective. Company perspective, you can there's two different situation. The local company that is doing a local business. Okay, so let's say I am a shop owner of US and I'm doing local business and I don't have any international business. In that case, the tariff doesn't affect my sales. Somehow it will just increase the demand because right now I get lesser competitor because of the tariff, and and when I selling toys, and then there's no other China toys that get imported, and the demand of my goods will get to increase. But so it will just a short-term recession for a longer-term development. And this, you can also study the case that is in early 18th centuries, in early 18th centuries, when the America is not the big brothers, but the Europe is. Or as I say, the British, the Britain. At that time, at the early 18th century, Britain is the head, is the big brother. But somehow they didn't add a tariff, and they encourage for open interest trading. They don't charge any interest on any goods. And then what happened is that US add on a tariff tax on the imported goods. So US citizens tend to buy more goods that's manufactured by local, and that bring up the steel industry, the clothing industry, and also the technology industry. And that just in a very short 100 years, it make it to just surpass the British head, So in that 100 years, just because of the tariff, the whole local industry get to be expand in a very quick manner, and then US become the big brother. So study on the history and you know what happened. So even though 100 years is very long term, we cannot live until then, but it's for longer development. You just have to suffer for a short-term recession. So what if your company are doing international business? So you'll find out that when the tariff tax is added on your goods, you will have no international customer anymore. Your supply will be bigger compared to the demand. Your sales will drop. You will dump the goods because of there's too many goods that manufacture, and then you cannot sell it off, and then your profit will drop, and then you will get to fire some of your employees and have a salary cut. All these will lead to deflation, and eventually it will make it happen, which is the business and talent outflow. Because in your country, if I just do the business in your country, I'm not able to profit. I'm not able to sustain anyhow. So I will just choose to do the business that is based in the other country. Business and talent outflow. And of this thing, we make it a recessions and also a deflation. Yeah, so let's see on the country side. We have talked about people, cost of living increase, company, and also the count. Now we talk about country. If in a country point of view, if the skill of your international business is higher than the local business, you will suffer for economic recessions. Why? Very simple. Because like 30% of your 40% of your whole company profit is from the other country. And in that case, you will lose up those 30 to 40%. And then when the business lose money, and then the unemployment rate will get to climb, and then I'm able to afford the cost of living, and then yeah, somehow economic recession will happen. And how the government can help on all of these company? Simply money, just by providing money. All right, but what if the government doesn't have any money? And they will start up the most easy money in this world is through robbery. So if you want to get money, the best way is to rob the country that have money. So maybe they will start a war. This is how the tariff lead to a World War II. If you go to the maybe sometime I will find a time, someday I will find a time to talk about the World War II story. So actually tariff is one of the very important factors that lead to World War II. So will World War III happen? We don't know yet. But from the current ongoing case, it's highly likely won't because of Trump start to compromise. And also a tariff will just set up an economic barrier comparing to the other country. What does it mean, an economic barrier? Because when I add the tariff thing, let's say Apple have factories in China, and they just manufacture the component and import it back. And right now, if I have a store in China, I have a factory in China, but the component that I get imported will get more expensive because of the tariff, then why don't I just close down the factory there and then make a local factory instead? So in that case, you will just set up an economic barrier whereby there's all the local company will have no factories at the other country. And then in that case, if you attack the other country, the loss in your finance will be minimum because you won't destroy your own factories and more. Okay. So even though there's still the other parts, but the time is already about there, and then there will be another Chinese class ongoing. So yeah, we will end on today's topic. But if you are interested and you want to know more and you want this chart, feel free to contact me. And then we can just discuss it more. So right now, if you are looking for chance, maybe this industry is quite good for you. And this is also the reasons that why gold is the only glitters in the market when everything is dropping. It's because people have seen the crisis behind. A potential of World War III and the potential of the bad debt of US government, the bonds, 9 trillions, everything is very risky. It's at a very dangerous situations. So let me look for my contact. I will show my contact here, and then for you guys to let's see. Wait for a second, then I will share my contact. And if you want this mind map, then you can look for me. So yeah, this is my personal contact in Telegram, and you can contact me to ask for the mind map. I will send you in PNG or GPN or GPG, APG, okay? Just in a picture format. So this is my Telegram for you to contact. So we will end for today's sections, and yeah, it's sad that we cannot cover all of those, but yeah, I hope you guys have learned some insight from these sections, and we will see you next week.